Yeah, everything that Cookie said. I'm a complete and utter data geek. I love working in the community and for businesses, and I think the strength that I have is that I'm sort of familiar with quite a lot of the stack. So many of my businesses are smaller businesses, and they have requirements that involve us to actually actually be creative with the Microsoft stack and see how we can use different solutions to meet needs. So what I'm going to do in this session is going to focus on how you build a Power BI data set, and then how you use that data set to meet reporting requirements in Excel, in Power BI, in paginated reports. I've started looking at Power Automate, and I've also started using Python within Excel to keep Excel, to be able to run Python without having a specific environment. So this is me. If you'd like to connect with me, please do so. I love sharing information, and I think we can all learn from each other. So this is me on LinkedIn, that's my Twitter, and that's my website. Do you like the bays and database.co? I was quite pleased with that. So session plan for today, I won't keep you more than an hour, and I'll be finished on time, is basically thinking about when we're creating reporting. Basically, we're going to look at the questions that people might ask, who might ask them, what the requirements might be, some of the things we need to consider about our different stakeholders. I'll show you how to create a Power BI model, some of the things that we can use from that model with Excel, a little bit more about paginated reports in the service, how we can build them in the service, how we can export it to Report Builder, and how we can use Report Builder to attach to Power BI. And then if we've got time, I'll show you a little bit about how we can use PowerPoint and embed Power BI reports within that. Any questions, please? If you pop them in the chat, I work much better if you ask me questions. I'm better being reactive. So you get more out of me if you ask questions. So the first thing you start with in my business is always a question, is a why. Why am I doing this? What does the reporting need? What question is it going to answer? So what if I find that information? What will it do? So just if anyone has any clues, this is a place in Europe. Anyone seen this place before? Just to get you talking to me. Pop it in the chat if you have an idea. So I'm going to show you a report that I've built for myself, and it's based upon this place. Yes, it is Italy. I am in the UK, but it's Italy. So this is Florence. On the 26th of November, I'm running Florence Marathon. So my report and the reporting that I'm doing and the story that I'm going to tell you is based upon my journey to run the Florence Marathon. So in order to understand, I mean, a marathon is quite a big thing, but in order to understand how and if I'm going to achieve, yeah, it was visible on the bottom right, that was a clue. If I can achieve, because running a marathon is an endurance sport, it's something you need to be able to plan for in the same way that we might have within our business. We might have specific reporting needs. Hello from New Mexico. And we have stakeholders. So within my running journey, I have various stakeholders, and I've got some nice pictures there. So I might have stakeholders. I might have my coach. So I belong to a running club, and I have a coach who is helping me to maintain my goals. And he might be interested, or she might be interested in, am I meeting the goals that they've set me? What's my progress to date? Do they need to worry? Am I achieving them? I will have more specific requirements. So I might be thinking about, what's my heart rate like? What's my speed like? Is having, sleep, what impact is that having upon me? My running friends might be much more interested in the detail. So they might be more interested in what my splits are like, what's the cadence, what's the actual height and meters, etc. So they'll be much more detailed. And then my family, they just want to know, am I on track or not? They might, you know, they're not necessarily runners. So within the stakeholders of the people that are involved within my journey, they'll all have different details that they might be involved, which is the same for any of our stakeholders in our business. They all have different needs. What we also need to consider with our stakeholders is what are their skill levels? Can they use Excel? Can they use Power BI? Do they use Report Builder? You know, how often do they use a desktop? Do they use a phone? What do they have? What licenses do they need? And what will they actually engage with? Because we can build these most amazing reports, but if people won't touch them, if it's not in a piece of software they won't use natively or are interested in, then they won't need. So it's, and this is where, when we start considering our Power BI reports, we want to then think about, okay, I love Power BI, but not everybody has access to Power BI. So it's about talking to people in a language or a piece of software that they can engage with. So my demo, I'm going to show you a demo and just explain where I pull the data in, and just give you a brief insight into that. So, and please don't judge my visuals. So this is a Power BI report. It's it basically is showing information about some of the runs that I've been doing, how far I've been running, where I've been running. And it's quite nice. I've just put some reds in there. So anything over 12 miles or what's that, about 20k is in red, and then we've got the blue. So it's quite nice for me visually to be able to drill down into this. But the part that probably you're more interested in is the fact that this data is pulled in from SharePoint. So I have tables within SharePoint where I extract Garmin data from. And I also have a spreadsheet. We always never move far from a spreadsheet, which is basically like a budgeting spreadsheet for me. So I put it in, I keep it on my phone, and every time I do a run, I just put the numbers in there. And then it just helps me to see, you know, what my forecast is. Whereas my Garmin data will actually go through and it's changed from Unix. So I create a different steps. I pull the data in to SharePoint and I perform different steps on it to make sure that it then meets the tidy data set that I need for my Power BI report. So it comes in and it creates these different steps and shows things that I'm doing. And you can see up here, if I just click on view, query dependencies. And you can see on here, this just shows the basic route that my data is being pulled in from SharePoint and which tables are being filtered by which tables. Once I've loaded this data into Power BI, and it can come from SQL Server, it can come from Oracle, it can come from APIs, anywhere that you get a data source, you can pull the data in. And in here then, I create a data model. It's normalized to 1NF, so it's not like a normal database where we have 3 normal, where it's broken down. We have a date table, and having a date table is critical in the data model because that then allows us, is a change or might, yes, yeah, you can basically apply a times by or a divide by for the column for each one, or you can do it in DAX. So yeah, there's a nice easy way to do it. So it's the same like as VAT. So you can write a measure where you would times it by. So within here we have all of the fact tables that are coming through that are then joined together by a date table. So I can use a date table to then work out, you know, how many activities I did on a certain day, how is that mapping to my budget, to my forecast, a little bit about my training history, and everything then has this one model which is built up by tables. And if I just click on the tables, you'll be able to see along here, it's a tabular model. So we have lots of the categories are repeated because it's normalized to 1NF. So that enables us to have these tables like this. And all that it does in Power BI, because understand your report builder, is it groups, filters and summarizes. So if I was interested in running, I would be able to filter here by running. And then if I wanted, I don't know, aerobic training effect, I can then pick a certain event. So we're filtering our table all of the time and we're grouping our table. And we can do that with using our measures to create this date. Once we've actually created this data model, we publish it into our Power BI service. So let me just pull this over here. And so I've published it to app.powerbi.com, which is our Power BI service. And you can see on here that this is the same report, but it's in our service, and this is where we can share it with people. So if people have got a Power BI Pro license or a premium license, this is where they can then access the data and use the data to create their own reports. If I just show you here, so when we look, this is the report and this is the data set. The absolute beauty of this is because we've created a data model and we've spent all of our time creating this model, what we can now do is we can use this model to meet all of our different shareholder needs. So we can show people how to, actually then be able to summarize. We can pop it into Excel, we can pop it into paginated reports. We can do all sorts of things with it. So in here we have our report, and then on these three dots enable us to see what we can do with our data model. So we can analyze it in Excel. Now, within Power BI is fabulous because it has the visuals and we can filter anything by anything. But what it can do sometimes is it can lead to complications, or it can be different things can filter different things. So sometimes it's really nice to pop it into Excel, because when you pop it into Excel, then Excel takes away the context transition of different visuals, and it enables you to see your measures, your calculations as they are in really nice simple steps, which is great for validation and also for your users that are very, very comfortable with Excel. So I've clicked on Analyze in Excel, which is here in these three dots, and then I'm going to click on Open in the web. And you'll see that this says query and refresh data. It contains queries, and these are the queries that are then feeding back to our analysis services model, which is our Power BI model. So when I open this report, you'll see we've got in the web, which is quite new. This has only been able to happen on general release for the last few months. What we can do is we have our key measures here. So if I was to pick number of activities, for example, so we've got as you hover over them, it'll tell you which ones are here. So it tells us rows and key measures. So down here, I know I've got total distance, miles. So if I click on my total distance miles, then down here, I can click on, we could have month name. So it's then starting to break it down and to show me the total distance by miles. And then down here, I could go for, let's have a look, summarized activities. I know most of my activities. If we go for sport type, then you can see we've got a really nice, my really nice pivot table, which a lot of users are incredibly familiar with. The beauty of this is it's all calculated within a data model once. So you're comparing apples with apples. It enables, you know, that the measures haven't been worked out differently. They're the same measures on the same model, so that are feeding an Excel report and a Power BI report, which then means that your users who are used to Excel can then use Analyze with Excel with Power BI. So that's one way that we can interrogate our data. The other way that we can do things is within our report. So if we click on Edit, you'll see on our table or any of our visuals, there are these three options where you can export data. Now, you can export data with our current layout. So it'll come in exactly the layout you see, but without any icons, colors, or any formatting. And you'll see it gives 150,000 row max. So if I just click on Export, I want to show you what this looks like. And it comes up straight away. And we've got this data here, and it'll open our Microsoft 365 Excel. And because I'm in the same tenant as the same tenant that my Power BI report is in, it has to be in the same tenant. It then allows me to speak to my Power BI report. And if I click Enable Editing, you can see here the tables come through. And this is just the table of data. It's not connected. This isn't connected, but it gives me a really nice quick export if I want to check something over, or if I want to send the data to someone that hasn't necessarily got a Power BI license. This is just extracting the data out, and you can, you know, very simply do a Control-T, which will pull your data out like this. And if I wanted to maybe look at all of those that gave me a lactate threshold, I can straight away start to filter the data to see what's happening. So it's a nice, easy, quick check to validate your data if you want to validate your data. Of course, we always want to validate our data. The other thing we can do, if you notice, when we export our data, we had data with current layout, which just gives us an extract that isn't connected. Summarized data gives us a live connection, and it says there's 500,000 rows max. So if I then export this we can then save. So if I click on Data, and you can see my tenants there. I click on Enable Editing and Enable Content. And what we have now is we have a connected table to our Power BI model, which enables us, which we can refresh. So we are able to refresh, we can add slices into this. And if I click on Data and click Queries and Connections, you can see, and let me open this, Properties. Oh, I forgot to put Zoom it on. So you can see within here, it's connected to our PBI Azure app.powerbi.com. And there is a definition in here, which is our, let me just copy this for you, which is our DAX query. So let me just pull it into a new row for you. So this is DAX Studio. I just want to show you the DAX query. So this is our, it's not that one. Let me just put it in Notepad, it would be quicker. I've got it all set up to show you something else. So this is our DAX query, which is filtering our table by our values, it's summarizing our columns, and then it's creating a query which will then enable us to refresh our tables. And we can save this, and then whenever we want to refresh this table, and you have to be quick because it'll come up down here and it'll be very quick, and you click refresh, you can see it's refreshed. So you save it, and this then, and you can decide what you want to bring in. You can apply filters to it, and then it's this live connection for your Excel users that don't necessarily have access to Power BI to be able to use it. So we've got 3 ways there of using our Power BI model to connect to our 3 ways from Excel to connect to our Power BI model. Are there any questions so far before I move into Report Builder?
There are no questions on the chat, but if someone
Okay.
would like to ask a question, please raise your hand
All good?
and unmute yourself. All right.
Nick, go for it.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a question. It's regarding the usage and the connection between. So I understand that we have 3 types of data storage mode. So the data direct query, the import mode, and the live connection. And so with the version that you are explaining and displaying now, in this example, it seems like Excel can be connected with a Power BI hosted into the same tenant.
Yes.
And so my question is that today I have an Excel 2016 and I have a Power BI Cloud Services. Does this kind of thing is possible or not?
I would think probably not in Excel 2016. I think you'll probably need to have Excel 2023 or I don't think it'll work in 2016.
Okay, okay. So thank you very much. It's clear. I think so for the moment it's not possible, and so maybe I need to wait, or I need to upgrade the version of my client of Excel to be aligned with Power BI. Okay, so it's clear for me.
Yeah, no problem. And I would strongly recommend you do that because the amount of energy that is going into Excel at the moment is phenomenal. What Microsoft are allowing us to do with Excel is so worth having the most up-to-date version with dynamic arrays and being able to code with Python in Excel and the connections to Power BI and everything. I think it would probably give you a competitive advantage in upgrading. Yeah,
okay.
Microsoft. It used to be that you would buy a license for a year or you would buy the software, whereas now having these continual updates of software is probably the best way to go. I would suggest.
Okay.
And this is me, not a Microsoft person. This is me as a normal person. So I don't get paid to do this, but yeah, I would say it's just with what they're able and pushing through with Excel, it's quite phenomenal at the moment. So
yeah, I listen, and so thank you very much for this advice. I can see a lot your point of view in the sharing. So no, it's clear for me.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the
Welcome.
question. I do like the interaction. It's much nicer.
You're welcome. It's normal.
So we've now looked at what we can do with our report with Excel. The part that I'm guessing you're particularly interested in within this group is how we use this Power BI data set where we're pulling data from anywhere and everywhere, and we can connect it. So we can connect databases with other databases, we can connect it with APIs, we can connect it with Excel, we can connect it with APIs. We can create a model from many, many different sources, connect them all together into one data model. And from that then data model, what we might want to do is we might want to print, whether it's print as a PDF or print as a physical piece of paper. And people sort of sometimes say, well, why would you do that? And I know for so it's all extracted. We have our data model, which we then analyze. So people quite often ask why do we need paginated reports? For my businesses, the businesses that I use them for, sometimes there are numerous reasons, but quite often, here we go, for legislative reasons. So one of the customers I work for, they're a government contractor, and legislatively they have to provide a printout or a PDF reports date stamps that cannot be changed. So when within Power BI, you're iterating, you're changing, you're filtering, it doesn't give you that snapshot. This is the state of play at this date, at this time, which is then hard coded in a sense that it can't be changed. So there can be legislative reasons. Within Power BI, you can only print what is on the page. You can't print what's underneath the page unless you scroll. If you have to scroll to see it, you can't print it. There's no download limit on Report Builder, on paginated reports within report services. And also, I use it quite often for validation for some people that aren't Power BI users. So what do I mean by that? So if we come back to, this is my app.powerbi, where I've published my report into the service. There are a couple of ways that you can create, as always, there's usually many ways that you can do things, but if you click on these 3 dots here, we can create a paginated report here. So I click on paginated report, and it's this simple and this easy to create a paginated report. So I'm just going to show you, and then please ask questions as I show, as I sort of work through it, if something's not clear. And I'm just pulling on my other screen what I'm doing, just to make sure I do what I've practiced doing, to make sure I don't go wrong. So first thing I'm going to do, you'll notice these are the tables that I've shown you in my Power BI report. So I'm going to put in my sport type. And so I put my filters, it comes in there, and you can see it's building. So we've got here our paginated report, we're building, we've got our filters, and we've got our data. I always want to know, and everyone always wants to know the date. So this top bit is the table. And if you were to click this, it would put everything in into the actual, into the report. I just want the date. So I click on date, and it takes a little while, but the date comes up. Then the next thing I want to know is, I'll get to that bit in a minute, Christy. The next bit I might want to know is how much am I supposed to run? So if I go down here, and you can search here for total. If I click on here, for some reason it's not letting me click in. Just love. So total duration in our miles, total distance in miles. So as I click in and out, you can see how it's enabling me to click in and out, and then required runs. So I put the required runs in. And I think also I want the variance. So straight away, this data is coming in, and you can see the categorical data, it knows can be filtered. The actual build data, it knows these 3 are measures that I've created. So it knows that it can't filter these. So what I can do is I can start to manipulate this report within the service. So I might think, actually, let's just go for running. So I'll click on running, and it's very interactive in that it will interact as we work through it. So I just want to have running in here, and it shows me all of the running. So I can, there's no more of these blank pages that I'm then trying to find. So I can pull them over. I can have my total distance miles. I can have my required runs, and when it starts to be able to fit it into the table, I can then fit it into the table, and I know that this will print the way that I want it to print. So I've got the fields that I want to build. I can filter within this pane, and this is my data model. So it's a nice, quick, simple way of actually building a report in Power BI service. When I then click here, this allows me to format it. So I can think, what do I want? And I've got a little button here to include the totals rows. So within the default style, I might just say, well, let's just give it a bolding. And I then have it just looks quite nice, but it would be quite nice to actually put perhaps a title in there so that we can tell people what we're creating. I can call it running report. I can then click on it, and as I click on it, you can see this comes up here. So it enables me to make it bold. I can make it 18. I can move it around. And I can also insert an image. So I can click on an image. Now it has to be an image from a URL. And I use a site called IMGBB, which is a free image hosting site. So on here, you can click ImageBB and you can see I'm logged in. And if I click on my profile, you can click on an image that you've uploaded for free. And then within here, you've got the image URL. So this then enables me to go back to my report, to pop the image URL in, and you press insert. And I can move it and put it wherever I want to move it, move my header up. I mean, you wouldn't do this if you were doing it in Report Builder. You'd be very specific about where you put things. But it just gives you, if you're building, and I've used something like this for a customer who just wanted to look at people were supposed to be entering something into a database and they hadn't. And that was then, we just wanted to go back to them and say, look, you need to update this field in this database because we're trying to push our information as far up as possible. So we just had, something like this, which basically showed very clearly where the blanks were or where the incorrect data was. Now it's got it like this. It's a running report. And what we can do, and you can see this is in editing. So if I click on viewing, it'll ask me, would you like to save it? So I'm just going to say called save and call it report basic. This is our reporting basic. You click save. Now, once this report has saved, you can share it with colleagues. So you're able to share it and you can view your report. So there are different ways that you can share it. You can also set up a Power Automate flow, which will connect to your paginated report, and you can set up reoccurrence as to whenever you want to schedule sharing of information. So on here, if we click export, what we can do then is we can export it as a PDF. Well, first of all, let's just view it. So we're viewing print layout. And this is what it looks like. It enables us to see our page settings, so we can set what page size it is. And so we can see what our report looks like. And then what we can do is we can click on home and we can export it into Excel. One of the reasons you might want to export it into Excel is because you don't have the same limitation on rows within. So you can see it's in here as you do actually exporting from Power BI. I think it's about 1 million rows that you can export with using Report Builder. So we can export it to Excel, or we can export it, so we're back in our report, we can export it as a PDF. And you can see how quick it is, report basic PDF. These are all the pages. So really nice, simple, and nobody needs a license. So if you have stakeholder requirements, nobody needs to have a PDF Power BI license to be able to see this. And sometimes people just want, a really basic report. So that gives us our PDF version. And then we can have, it's a CSV, or we can export it into Word. So it's a way that we can actually really quickly, within 5 minutes, create a fairly decent report within our Power BI service without actually having to go into Report Builder. It does, however, give us limitations because it's a bit dull, it's a bit boring, but it works. so we can use it and we can work through it. But what we can do, yes, if you've defined RLS at the data set, this will inherit it as well. So what we can do as well is we can download this as a report builder file. So again, it's using our Power BI data set. So if we click on File and we click Download Report, and I've got Report Builder on my machine, and we click Open, it then brings this one report into, already set up, and into Power BI for us. So if I click Run, you'll see we've got the same report in Report Builder. So it's giving us, in a sense, a template in which we can work on. But we can do things to it. Now we have it in Report Builder. So this sport type, it looks a bit rubbish. So we can make it a little bit bigger. And we can make our column a little bigger. Obviously, you would be checking, being very, very specific with your measurements. So we can say, right, straight away, that looks a little better. We can do all sorts of things too here. So in our total distance, for example, one of the things I might want to draw attention to is some conditional formatting. So we're very limited to what we can do in Power BI service at the moment, but I suspect that this will change as the team work on it. So what I might want to say is when I look at my run here, I might want to say, okay, show me these that are greater than, I want to see the ones that are a little bit bigger than the longer runs as I start running. So on this one, what we can do over here, you'll see we can change the font color. So if I click on expression, you can see the expression here. And here's one I produced earlier. So what I want it to say is, if the value is greater than or equal to 12, then make it red, otherwise make it black. So I'm changing the expression color for my report. And then while I run it, you can see as I move through, you can see the runs are starting to get bigger, where they start to get over 12. So it's a nice way that you can then start to produce visualizations into your report. The other thing that I can do is I can say, well, I don't want to show, I want to be able to filter and not show some fields, or if I want to, show some fields, don't show the fields. So on here, if I click on my report, this is a Tablix, so I can click on Tablix properties and I can apply a filter, and I can click and add an expression. So FX is the expression, and this is probably where you'll be much better than me than doing this. But you can look things up on online and find out how to do things. So what I'm basically saying, if on this filter, if it equals nothing, and then Boolean equals false. So basically what I'm saying, and hopefully it'll work, is that if this particular field doesn't have anything in it, then don't show it. So if I press OK and then run, I thought it would do that. I can't use aggregate. So this was deliberate. When you pull in from Power BI, these here, when you pull in your report with your totals in the report, the actual DAX query is more complex. So I would recommend, if you're going to download your report, when you actually click on editing it, and you then go into your build and you look at your formatting, if I click revert to default and then go on to bold, it'll come up and it'll show you, it should show you where the headers are, where the totals are. And what we want it to be able to do is we want to say, don't show the totals, which I now seem to have lost. It's got changes. Build. None. And then bold. It normally comes up here, but the joy of demos, it's not working for me at the moment, but it will do in a minute. We'll build a new one and show you. But when you actually export your row with totals, what it does give you is it gives you more complex DAX, which then has these aggregate keys. So if we look at these aggregate keys won't let us filter. But what we can do is we can just get rid of these aggregates, and we can pull them in ourselves if we want to pull them in. So now I've got rid of these aggregates, then you can see where the total miles are. It's only showing them in where there is a total distance. So we can start to apply the same formatting that we would normally use within Report Builder, but you just need to be aware of the complexities when you're starting to use the actual joins that are coming through. So when it's grouped by the DAX query that is written into the paginated report is more complex. So I always try and make it as simpler a DAX query as possible to allow me to actually work better with it. And we can make our report a little bit more exciting by, we can say, right, okay, if there's something I really want to show, we can go into our font and we can increase our font size. So again, and this is the thing I really love about Report Builder, is we can change anything that we want. So we're going to make our font size slightly bigger. So if it's over 20, and we're going to make our font weight expression. So here our font weight, I want to make it bold. Go into our font weight. So again, we're just doing, if it equals this, then do that, or not do this. And then when we run it, you can start to see it's getting bigger, so that we've got our reds nicely jumping out. 2nd of September, really long run. And then as you scroll down, you can see another long run on the 8th. So this simple formatting, we've created our report in Power BI, we've pushed it to Power BI service, we've created our template report in Power BI service. Now we've opened it in Report Builder and we've made a few small changes. So what we can do now, you can see that I'm logged in within my tenant. I can publish it back up to Power BI service. So it goes here, it's in Garmin data. So click on Garmin and I'm going to call this one, it's a little bit fancier, and click publish. So it's in our Power BI report. It's really nice and quick and simple. So if we go into our Power BI report and we refresh, there we go, report fancier. And you click on it. And it pulls the run up, pull the runs up. So if we go right to the end, you can see straight away at the end, we've got our fancier formatting in, we've got some conditional formatting, and it's sat within our workspace. So this is our Garmin workspace, and we've got our different reports. We've got our basic report and we've got our fancier report. One thing to note though is that when you download it to Power BI, when you download it to Report Builder and you make editing changes in Report Builder, you'll see that here we don't have this edit. Once you've edited it in Report Builder, then you can't edit it again in the service, which actually makes sense because you know that there's that compatibility, forward backward compatibility, which then it, you know, would have an impact. But we can still, now we've got this report, we can view it as a PDF. So it makes it, because I know when I first started trying to use Report Builder, I used to struggle with, you know, the blank pages and how to fit them all in. Whereas this, I think most people could probably create a really standard, easy report within a few minutes. Nicely formatted, you know, quite simply. So that's one option. The final option is if you are in Report Builder here. So what we can do is we can create a new report, completely blank report. So if we go into our blank report and we click on data sources, and there's a few ways you can get this, but if we click on data, you can see up here there's a Power BI data set, and you can see I'm logged into my tenant here. So if I click on Power BI data set, it automatically connects me to every single Power BI report that I have within my workspaces. So if I click on my Garmin report, then within here I have all of my tables. So I go straight back to my normal way of actually working. And yes, you can create parameters as well, Christian, in Report Builder. So you can actually pull out the parameters and add them into your report and publish it back up to the service. So here I can create, I can pull my date in, I can look at summarized activities, sport type, and I can add a measure in. So you can see the measures are at the top. Activity, we'll just have running rows, click to execute the query. And so you can start to pull in information using the same data set, but straight away starting from Report Builder. So what that enables us to do, let me just get back, is that we're able to print more than one page. We've got no download limit. It's 1 million as opposed to 150,000 from Power BI service. It quite often enables us to meet the legislative requirements of our customers and their stakeholders. And it's a really nice, simple way to validate some of your information, and it can be sent information then to non-Power BI users. So just a little bit about how to create through it to the paginated reports, because I can give this presentation, this PDF to Cookie, if anyone wants to have a look. So we've started off with our original question where we can start to think about, okay, you know, I want to run a marathon and I don't want to break while I'm doing it. I've got different stakeholders that are interested in different parts of the journey that have different requirements. Some of them use Excel, some Power BI, some PowerPoint, some report builders. They have different skills, they have different IT accessibility, some have licenses, some don't. And we can use our one Power BI model that is pulling in different data from all sorts of different sources, and we can build reports in Excel 3 different ways. We can create 3 different ways of creating paginated reports from a Power BI model in the service. And we can embed all of this into Power BI, into PowerPoint as well. And then within this one data set, you can then start to use Power Automate as well to actually automate many of these processes and decide who you want to send out information to on an automatic basis. So you don't even need to see it. You can just set Power Automate to, once you've created these reports, to actually send them out to you. So that is us with 5 minutes to go. Are there any questions that anyone may have? Yeah, Kimberly.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. I was hoping that little leader into Power Automate was really a great segue. I was hoping you could speak a little bit about using paginated reports in order to create, you always have those stakeholders who want to have the report in their email first thing in the morning. But maybe they need a different filter of the data than some other stakeholder, or maybe I have to legislative requirements. I have to email to 2 or 3 different states, like their own data. Do you recommend using Power Automate? Is that something you do within the Power BI service?
Yeah, so I use Power, so I've got something like that. I don't necessarily use paginated reports for that, because the automation from paginated reports using Power Automate requires a premium connector. So it depends if you've got premium or not. But what I do is I have a Power Automate flow connected to my Power BI data set that is set to reoccur on certain conditions, and then it just pings through to certain stakeholders with the filters, etc., intact. And I know we've got I run Devon and Cornwall user group, Kimberly, and I've got a session by Christy, who's in there. I can see him in the chat, and he's running a session specifically on using Power Automate. But I do that. It just pings every Monday. It goes out to people. They've got a CSV that needs to be uploaded into a specific piece of software, and it just sends them that CSV with the filters applied. So all they do is drag and drop, drag and drop. So you can do, and Cookie's put something in the chat as well. So there are many different options that you can do it. But if you connect with me on LinkedIn, then I can send you a link to the post.
Great, I can do that. Thank you.
And I think Cookie's put in something as well about dynamic subscriptions for paginated reports.
Yes, it's currently in preview. And so if you are interested in having a look at it, go ahead, take a look at that blog and get signed up to start working with it. We know that for customers who've had those subscriptions on-prem, is limited with Power BI in the service to have those dynamic subscriptions. However, we are working to add that functionality, and that's one of the most requested features that we've been asked by customers. So we're starting in that direction, and we just want to let customers know that it's coming. Now, if you currently have Power Automate, like Sue said, I mean, it's good for, a small group, but we have some customers that have hundreds of reports, and Power Automate is just not, the most efficient way to do that. But that's why we are trying to work on doing this more at scale.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of, like you say, it's a stakeholder need, isn't it? And people just want, these printed reports.
And Cookie, I had to join on the web, and I'm having trouble. I can't see the chat. If I connect with you on LinkedIn as well, can you send me those links?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And are you a part of the user group community here?
The Portland Power BI Fabric user group,
Okay, but not on, you were invited to this webinar, but not on the migration, because I do put in like a response after to thank the presenter, and I do put links in there, but I'm also going to, I can link you through LinkedIn, and then also there'll be a recording on YouTube for this session as well.
Great, thank you so much.
All right, we have about a little under 2 minutes left. Do we have any other questions? If not, I do want to thank Sue, of course, for this amazing presentation she gave us with the events of her running. I have expressed to her that I do love runners and the dedication that they have. And I love how she incorporates something she loves to do with another thing. So that's the technical, and then actually doing this, physical work. And it's just awesome to see that. So really appreciate Sue again for taking the time to speak to our user group. And like I said, we will have this session recorded on YouTube. So I will send the link there through the user group. If anybody wants to connect with me, you can do so on LinkedIn. I can get you the links that was in the chat and anything else, questions that you may have to Sue directly. But yes, we do want to thank her for her time. And I just really appreciate, I don't know why I just raised my hand. Really appreciate it. So
I think it's just nice to have a different data set, isn't it? And so I'll say I did run the marathon earlier. I ran Munich last week. So I'm doing Florence at the end of November, but the training went well with all of this monitoring, so it does work. And I got to run Munich marathon last week and tied it up with data community as well. And we did an Excel user group on the Monday as well. So I presented on Excel and Python, and everyone did, different bits, but it was lots and lots of fun. So
awesome.
Thank you for your time, everyone. I do appreciate it. And if you're interested in time intelligence in Power BI, I run my own user group as well, which is meeting today. And we're talking about time intelligence and date tables. And Christy will be talking about Power Automate in a couple of weeks.
Excellent.
So
thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Cookie. Take care. Have a great rest of the day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.